That's what I learned is not just saying yes to everything, because I was definitely a yes man early on, and I realized it was eating up so much of my time. It was great for my experience, but at the end of the day, when I felt like I was actually worth more time, worth more money, and my value was up, I had to say no. Right? I couldn't do that anymore.
Hello and welcome. I'm Oliver Wolf from the Wolf Syndicate Coaching, and I'm excited for you to be here for another episode of the Ultimate Closer Show, where I take awesome closers out of their productive days to invest their time into you. And so together we'll talk about sales theories, philosophies, as well as actionable strategies, tips, and techniques to make sure that you're closing more deals. And so today on our show, we have another very special guest. His name is Carlos Hernandez Martinez, and I kind of want to Hernandez Martinez. and so Carlos, tell you a little bit about him. He's the co-founder of Social Sales Pro and sales manager with the Business Club Academy. So Carlos began his journey in online sales and marketing at the young age of 15 years old. I don't even know if I was really super self-aware by then, but this guy really hit the ground running. And so he's gone on to create multiple sales teams, from network marketing to direct sales, and now has a team of over 30 sales reps that he's trained and developed to drive over $350,000 plus in the last year of 2018. So that's a great achievement, first of all. Congratulations. Carlos believes that through the power of effective communication and marketing, that any and all things are possible. I can definitely advocate for that communication part, because without good communication, there's just no interaction of any kind. Mm-hmm. And so effective communication and marketing is Carlos's main focus on a mass scale. And it's also how he's helped his clients create six-figure weekends and six-figure incomes. So currently, Carlos's focus is on Social Sales Pro. We'll maybe get the chance to jump into that a little bit here and there, which believes in transforming the way marketing is done one company at a time. And so on a more personal level, Carlos, I met him online. Actually, I met him through his Facebook group. Well advertised. About, I think it would have been in November. Is that right? That we had our first call?
Yeah,
maybe
it was right in the
September.
I think it was in November 12th.
Something like that. Yeah, cool. He knows the date. So November 12th.
So I remember.
There you go. So it was November. And so this wasn't too long ago, because we're now January. And so it would have been about 3-4 months ago. And so I signed up for his program. So he has a program that helps me generate leads. And I'm not going to go too much into that, but what I really appreciated about it and about Carlos was that, of course, the program worked and everything was great. But what I liked is that Carlos really took the extra time between our structured program to help me out with things. So there were times where he'd go out of his way to help me craft a message, or this, that, or the other. And so why this matters is that it speaks to his golden heart, as cheesy as that sounds. And so, as I'm sure we're going to discover through the call here, this young guy, this young gun, I mean, I got to say it. How old are you? Like 22?
20.
20. Okay, this guy's freaking 20. So he's 20, and he's really doing really big things already. And and I think one of the reasons why he's doing it so successfully is that he's doing it from a space of love and genuine, authenticity. And so I'm honored to have you on the show, Carlos. Really excited to dive into some stuff. So welcome.
Thank you, man. Thank you. And also super glad to be here for everyone that's watching. Oliver is incredible. I really enjoy just your friendship, man. And I know you're up to some really awesome things. So just, I'm glad to be here. Appreciate you inviting me.
Yeah, man. So something that I had an interview called just before this one, actually. And he had a great idea. I kind of wanted to see if I could start with this question right off the bat. Let's just go straight to it. What's a time that you had an epic fail in sales, and how the heck did you deal with it?
Oh man. All right. Well, I had a lot of failures in sales. But I'd say the one that I could remember most was let me think here. There's a moment where I I try to wait. So I set a lot of appointments, right? Yeah. So I would do calls, almost with people from around the world, and it caused me to wake up really early. So I remember I had a call at 4 a.m,
Eesh.
And I'm gonna share two, because this one I feel like it's nothing too crazy, and then one that's a little bit more like in front of an audience and all that. But the first, this one was an appointment. I woke up right on 4 a.m. right on the dot, and then I had to call him, so I was a couple minutes late. But I was out of it. I was completely out of it. So they're all trying to talk, and you could hear that raspiness in your voice.
Yeah, man, you're not even awake.
Yeah. I'm like, hey, how's it going? This is and so he and I like this guy just because he was so straightforward. He told me, he's like, hey, it sounds like you just woke up. And then I was like, no. And I tried to lie my way out of it. I was like, no.
It never works.
Yeah, it didn't work. And so the call didn't end up going anywhere. I was completely out of it. So I've had multiple experiences of that when I was really starting, and I was trying to, but that was my most like in memory. I failed that call horribly, but it wasn't anything as bad as me, slipping up in front of a audience of over 100 people.
Oh, that's a tough one.
I don't know if that's like a sales failure, but just it hurts when you're stuttering, right? And you're stuttering, trying to get a word out, and you have a big audience in front of you, and so I'd say just those are like two,
cool.
At least in my head, that I really embarrassed myself.
Yeah. No, I love starting with something like that because it just adds a bit of humanism, right? And I guess something that we can still derive some value from. So that time where you like totally messed up on stage in front of 100 people, like I don't think a lot of the audience here gets the chance to do that and really even has the aspiration to do that. But there is something there that might resonate, which is like, man, how do you come back from that? Like, what did you do in your mind? Like, yeah, you could like act it out, but in your head, you must have been like, holy crap. Like, how did you get yourself back in the zone?
Totally. And that's a great question. So this was, I want to say maybe last year, middle of last year. And so for me at that moment when I realized, okay, I'm messing up pretty hard right now. I'm stuttering, I have the audience looking at me funny, and this was a great opportunity for me. So I just remembered it's not about how you start, it's about how you finish. Right. So I just had to get myself back in the zone. I had to put my physiology up, right? I think a lot of our mood, a lot of, how we act and what we do throughout the day is in direct correlation with how we are, what our physiology is like. So, I had to put my shoulders back. I had to really relax. And that's a hard thing to do when you're in front of 100 plus people, is really just breathe and relax, put your shoulders back. And then I finished it off strong. I remember that for a fact. It was young adults, and then also people a little bit over 20. So I relating with them and going through high school and building a business. So I ended it off on a high note and motivation, right? So I just threw myself out there with physiology, with the body language, and I had to increase, the level. I started off weak, but I finished it off really strong, and the audience bumped it towards the end. And I think I still have the recording of it, but it was good. I finished. The point is how you finish is what really matters.
Yeah. And I think something important there that I'd love to drive home is, so you're talking about physiology and sort of, coming back. And I think really the highlighting word too is just reaffirming or readjusting your state, right? Your state, like you were coming, like before you're like, oh geez, like, crumpled in, all that kind of stuff. So your state was that of like lack of confidence and fear and so on. But as soon as you like physically, whatever, but through physical movement and such, you're able to change your state of being and come back strong. And I think that right there is something that people from home can take that, it's like, if ever you're feeling down or like you screwed up or something like that, like just change your state, change the way you're being through physiology, through things like that. And you can come back strong. So yeah, awesome, man. Thanks. This is a great story.
Yeah. I think it's just funny because it's really what controls our day. So if you notice, if you think about, if you ask someone, what does a depressed person look like? They'll usually be looking at the ground. They'll be walking with their shoulders slumped over, right? And then if you ask someone, what does a confident person look like? And then it's with their shoulders back, chin up. They always say chin up, and
smile.
And smile, and it really does change your mood. And in sales, your mood is everything, because moods kill dreams. Kill businesses, and people won't get on sales calls. They won't prospect because they don't feel like it, right? So make yourself feel like it. and that's all in, physiology. So it's a little hack right there.
For sure, man. Love it. So let's dive into a bit of that. So I like to kind of dive into people's, story or their sales journey, because by observing the sales journey, we're able to really see what it is you did that led you to any kind of success. And, again, someone who's 20 years old and leading a team of 30 sales reps at $350,000 a year, I'm sure there's a couple of people thinking like, how, right? So let's dive into that. I mean, wherever you want to start, what's sort of that sales journey? What's your story?
Yeah. So, I mean, I'll jump to the very, to the very beginning when I was 15 years old, and really.
Thought you were going to go into the womb for a second.
No, so I remember I saw a hole and I came out of it.
Yeah. I saw a light.
So, yeah, I mean, first of all, I definitely want to shout out my family. Shout out God. I've definitely been blessed for just the people that I've had in my life. So at an early age, I remember my uncle telling me to read personal development books, and not only read them, but study them. So to this day, I have 3 fully packed out notebooks with notes on every single book that I've ever read. And so I started off there, right, in the personal development stage. But at 15 years old is when I remember I started my first journey in sales. And so,
hey, Carlos, I'm going to interject real quick here. Sorry for interrupting. I know you're getting to your flow, but there's something there. I feel, because even I'm really curious myself. You said, you don't just read a book, but you really study it, and then you have these specific notebooks. Do you have some kind of like a strategy of how you can really extrapolate the value out of a book that you could share?
Yeah, I mean, one of the people that I really look up to when I was early and starting, a couple years ago, Ty Lopez was huge. And so I've done a lot of studies on how he would read a book a day, and one of the things he'd do is he'd learn speed reading. So what I do is I'd speed read, but when I found something that really resonated with me at that moment, or when I found something in general that I felt was provided a lot of value, I would actually write it down in my own words. And so I wouldn't take notes on everything, right? I take only notes on the stuff that resonated and that I felt had massive value. And then I'd write that down in my notebook in my own words, because the point of that is in the future, when I look back at it, which I do often, I'll look back at my notes, and in my notebook, it has very valuable stuff, not from me, but just because of the books that I'd read, and I just pull aside everything that I felt was golden, everything golden, I just put it down. So what that meant, though, is it took me a long time to read books. Like I wouldn't be able to finish a book in a week if I wanted to, because I'm taking notes on every single golden nugget. So that's the only step back from it, but there's a lot of pros that you get from it.
Well, it's one of those things, like some people, they're just like, oh, just give me more books. I want to read more books and books and books. And it's like, and I'll catch myself doing that too sometimes. I'll be reading and I'm just like, I didn't even hear what did I just read? Right. Yeah. And so I love that. That's actually great. I'm glad that sort of came up. So sorry, we're at 15 years old, starting your sales journey.
Yeah. So I was 15 years old. I remember at that time, I was saving up money from chores. I was saving up money from, I'm in high school at this point, or like just getting into high school. So I'm saving up lunch money, and I'm doing chores for money. I'm doing whatever I could just to build up the funds. And so I remember I had $100, and I was looking into what can I do? What could I start with $100? And I found this site called Alibaba. Right, so on Alibaba, there's things, manufacturers from China, they're selling stuff extremely cheap. And so I found these waterproof phone cases that I remember I was walking through the store, and I saw them in the stores for $30 and $30 up to $40 and $50. And I was like, I could buy these phone cases for $1 each.
Dang.
So I showed my dad, and I was like, hey, Dad, I think I'm going to put my money in this. And I'm going to have them shipped to my house. And my dad's super supportive. My family, I'm just so grateful that I have a family that understands, right? Because I dropped out of college and I was a bad student, but they saw that I had the drive. They saw that I was failing in school, but I would never go to parties. I'd be reading books all day. So they knew something was different, right? So my dad was like, okay, you know what? You can buy it, and I'm going to also put in another $100 so you can buy, a lot of it.
Yeah.
And so I ended up buying them, took a couple weeks to arrive. And what I'd do is I'd actually go out to the beach, and I'd go to the beach and sell them to people on the beach. Like, hey, you know, would you like to buy this? Hey, would you like to buy this?
Well, that's exactly where the problem would happen, right?
Yeah, exactly. That's where people are around water and they're with their families. And I'm sure, you know, they haven't, it was kind of a new thing 5 years ago. So they wanted that. And then, so I was making money off of that. I'd also go everywhere that I went with my family in terms of vacations. Like, we'd go to Hawaii, we'd go to Vegas multiple times of the year. And so I'd carry it around, and I'd also have like 10 stashed with me. So then, because when I was in the pools or when I was at the beach, people would say, where do you get those? And then I'd be like, actually, I have some. And then I'd sell them there. And then that kind of turned into, you know, I brought on friends with me. I created like a commission structure. It didn't go on for too long, but I was like, look, I'll give you guys a couple of packages. You sell them for anywhere from $15 to $20, and you get to keep half of it, right? Because it only cost me $1. So if I'm making
for sure,
I'm making $10,
and it's leverage, right? You learned leverage at a young age.
Exactly, yeah. So I was like, you know what? If I get, you know, my 2-3 friends to sell this for me, and I'm making money. So started there.
So I'm going to interject again here. So something else that came up that for you were fortunate of, but others can still make happen. That's very important. You said, my parents supported me, right? Yes. This is huge. And so there's a lot of people that have parents that will not support them. And I don't want anybody to hear that and think, oh, well, that's, you know, Carlos had support, da, da, da. The fact is, what you had were people supporting you. And those people can be your family, but they can also be your friends, your coworkers, your this, your that. But what's important is, again, there's not much you can do about your family. Like, that is what it is. But you can be intentional about who it is you surround yourself with to make sure that they are people who support you. Right?
Yes.
So I think that you can condone a lot of your success. I mean, the fact is, your dad invested just as much as you did into that business. And I'm sure he gave you words of wisdom. Imagine you had friends doing the same. Like that. That's huge, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. I definitely think there's a factor of, you know, one of the things I see people do a lot of, and I'm glad you mentioned that, is people will look at, especially with social media, with Instagram, with Facebook, all this stuff around it, they're comparing themselves to other people that are younger, that have more money, or they have a nicer house, or they have, you know, even as much as comparing, you know, the wife or the husband. And it's insane. Just, and I realized that is what's holding people back, right? Realizing that we all start at a different starting line. Everyone has a different starting line, but you decide how you finish that race, right? At the end of the day, you decide who you want to hang around with. You decide how you get educated. You decide the actions you take on a day-to-day. And yeah, some people even more privileged than myself, right? There's people that they were born into wealth, and they were born into a family with both parents being business owners. My parents immigrated from Mexico. All I knew was drive, because that's why they came here, because they wanted the dream. All I knew was you know, work hard. But
for sure.
It's just not about comparing. It's just focus on you. And then as you're focusing on being the best version of yourself, taking the best actions every day, then, you know, good things will happen. You'll meet great people, and you create your own luck. I really believe that.
Cool. And yeah, I love the line by, maybe you'll remember this, but basically, like, I believe in luck, and I believe the harder I work, the more lucky I get.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't remember who it was who said that, but I'm sure someone who's listening knows.
Yeah.
Cool, man. So yeah, so let's continue. So you kicked ass at these waterproof phone cases, you know, a little bit of an entrepreneurial experience. What's next?
Totally. So I was selling those waterproof phone cases. I also have an uncle. Maybe some people know. I mean, if they're watching your sales show, they might know of Tony Martinez. He is an absolute beast and has one of the largest events in Mexico. Hundreds and close to 1,000 people now that attend his events called Fearless. And so he's the one that motivated me to read books. He's the one that I was about to go to the Marines. He got me out of it. And And he told me, he's like, look, man, you're meant to do more, right? Like, he empowered me at a young age. He told me, you're meant to do so much more. Like, you don't know what's in our blood. And so, like, he just gave me these words that I didn't understand, but it pushed me and it made me think differently. And so he's someone that I really looked up to. And he ended up getting me at a young age. Like, thinking about it now, I don't know why he would ever do this, but he was like, look, you know, if co-founded a company right now. I want you to lead, I want you to go out and make some sales for us. And I was like 15 and a half or probably around close to 16 years old at this time. And, but all I knew is I was motivated and I actually went out and I sold a membership, which a membership is, like couple $100. Mm-hmm. And at 16 years old, that was like my first experience, my first taste of selling something worth more than $200-300. So at the time I didn't realize it was a network marketing company, what he sold me into. He was like, okay, look, these are the levels of membership. You got to get other people to buy this level of membership. But all I knew is I was in a travel company and we have great deals and I'm going to help people get those great deals. Right. So I started selling that. That only lasted for a couple of weeks until the company shut down. He co-founded it. There's a couple of things in management or that the higher, like things he didn't like the way that the business was.
Yeah. Just didn't align with his values, I guess. And
didn't align. So so then when he got out of it, of course, I naturally got out of it. I also on social media, I saw this huge trend in foreign exchange and, Forex, like stock trading, but currencies. And so I dived deep into foreign exchange and through that I ran into another network marketing company, which at the time was called Wealth Generators. Now it's called Kuvera. And there is where it really changed my life. I was a part of this company for about 1.5 years, close to 2 years. Never had a single check, never made money from it at all. The only area that I'd make money from sometimes, right? Because it's kind of like gambling if you don't know what you're doing. The only place I'd make money from is the markets. When I put some money in there, and I remember making $100 in 30 minutes, and I was like, no way. And then I lost it all the next 30 minutes.
Yep, welcome to the stock market.
Yeah. So never made any money, but I was investing, and I had a job at this time. When I was 15 and a half, the first thing I did was get a job. My parents didn't have to tell me. I just wanted money. And so I was investing about $160 a month into this company for almost 2 years without making a single dime from it. But what I got so much leadership. I got a connection. I got a new network of friends that eventually led me to sales roles, which eventually led me to business partners, which eventually led me to, to a lot of these great opportunities to get to where I was at. So it gave me
kind of like, instead of investing in the stock market, really what you did is you invested in your network.
Exactly.
It just indirectly was the case. I think that's that's super important too, right? I think a lot of people, especially people that are in the stock market, a lot of people are. And, but I think we invest either time, money, or energy into things. And the thing we invested in didn't end up turning out the way we wanted it to. And a lot of people get caught up in that, right? They get caught up in the fact that I made a wrong bet or I made a bad decision or whatever. And they don't do like what you did, is you were able to find, well, you know what? Hey, what I had expected out of my investment didn't happen, but how can I make the best of this? Or what can I do with this? Or how can I reframe this, or so on and so forth? And it led to, as you just said now, huge success.
Yeah, exactly. So it didn't, I never made money from it, never regretted that decision because I ended up really meeting people. I grew my mindset tremendously with the people that I was surrounding myself with. And even a couple of days ago, I was going back through all of the mentors that I used to have, and they're still killing it. And I was just realizing like, wow, I was in such a, this company led me to amazing people that helped me mold my mind. So
blessing in disguise.
Yeah, it was a blessing in disguise. But that was my first experience with network marketing. Failed in terms of like financially and building a team. I only ever got to 2 people, but you needed 3 to get a paycheck. So so I failed that. But another thing too that I got is the public speaking. What I used to do is I used to hold events at my house where I would literally pack out my living room. My stepdad hated it, but I'd pack out my living room. I'd bring my mentors and I had them speaking to 8, 9, 10 people, and then selling the opportunity. And then I was also speaking in front of people. I was putting together presentations. I was speaking at 16 and a half, 17 years old. And so fast forward, right? That was my first experience and my first taste with network marketing. Didn't make any money from it. But what I learned from it is the ability to sell, to speak, and to market, right? I realized social media was a big part of what I was doing, how I was inviting people, how I brought on 2 of these people. And so that led to my next taste in network marketing, which was actually with a cryptocurrency company. And at this point, by this point, I was doing sales with someone that I had met from my original MLM company. We started doing sales together. He hired me on as a sales rep, and we're helping people consolidate their student loans. And then we also, it's an interesting story. I won't go over it, at least not here. But, I did some business illegally. And so that's a whole nother story. If people want that, then they can request that.
Yeah, for sure.
But I used a lot of those funds from places I shouldn't have been making money. And I started using that money to basically start what I'll talk about going forward. I'm getting ahead of myself. But so in the second cryptocurrency network marketing company, I ended up building one of the largest teams in the South Bay. So we completely took over, and I think I was just about to graduate at this point. So we took over the entire high school. We took over, even some teachers got involved, family members got involved, but built a big team of people getting involved in cryptocurrency. And that was my first taste of like what it really meant to make money. And at the time too, one thing that I will regret is we were getting paid in Bitcoin. So I was rocking up Bitcoin at the time when it was about $2,000 a coin. And then I took all the money out before it went to $16,000, $17,000, $18,000. So I could have easily, 10x my money. But anyways,
that kind of stuff is so like, you never know, man. It's not even the kind of thing you want to stay on.
Yeah, I could have never predicted that. But so I had a great experience there, and then the company crashed. So the company, it was, a lot about MLM and network marketing. There's, you'll realize that there's a lot of rules, and so that company broke a couple of them, and it went down. So I had to find another stream of income. I was still working at the time, and from at this point now, I realized marketing was everything. I realized it's all about getting in front of eyeballs. And I learned a little bit more about team building, right? I also realized if I wanted to do something big, I need a team. I can't do it alone. And so
I always say, like, you can do good things, but you can only do incredible things with a team.
Yes, exactly. And even in the Bible, if you know me, I'm super open about my faith. It says no man is an island, right? You need a team if you're going to do huge things. So next thing, I start my own company in website development. So at this time, I was using the money that I was talking about to buy things like ClickFunnels, WordPress, buy my domains, buy everything, literally everything that I needed to buy in terms of my education. I bought $1,000 courses. I bought, I was paying for the network marketing companies. I was like, this was a moment where I invested heavily in myself, heavily in my knowledge, how to, run a social media marketing agency.
This is actually good stuff here. I think that there's something here that, again, a lot of people, there's some hesitation with in terms of how they feel about this, which is investing in yourself, investing in programs, teachings, coaching, all that kind of stuff. And obviously this is a bit of a shameless plug because we're both coaches, but I think it's still worth talking about because we're doing this coaching thing because we know it works and because we have our own, like as we speak, I have 1, 2, I think like 3 mentors or coaches kind of thing as we speak. Or I think like paid. And then in terms of like mentors, like that goes into the double digits. And there's so many people that feel like, oh, like I don't want to put my money into someone. Like what if I don't know, they don't teach me, or what if it's a scam, or what if it's this, or what if it's that? And it's like, okay, but 1, you'll never know unless you try. 2, absolutely. You'll never learn unless you try. You'll just stay at your pace, and your pace is so limited. And one of the things that I've learned very quickly in the coaching is there are no shortcuts to success. The only shortcut is to find a mentor who can give you a better path, right? A quicker way, or can show you the better way to do it, sort of thing. So I just wanted to touch on that real quick because I love that, like you just said now, you just invested thousands of dollars into yourself. And I think more people need to do this. They really need to do this if they want to take their life and their business more seriously.
Yes. Yeah. People don't, people don't realize that they're all about, investing in real estate. They're all about investing in, putting in areas where they see the money part,
monetary return. Yeah.
The monetary return. But the biggest, where you're going to get the highest return on your investment is in yourself, right? And we hear it time and time again, the best place to invest is in your mindset. And it's absolutely true. If it wasn't for those courses, if it wasn't for the conferences that I paid for, if it wasn't for the coaches that I paid for, I wouldn't be nearly as close to where I am right now. So it's shortcutting, right? You're shortcutting. You're learning from people's experiences. You're learning from people's failures. You're learning from people, their strategies, kind of, how you and I did work together. And now why people, will consult you, because you have the shortcut, you have the way. And so it's just, you're buying yourself time at the end of the day. When you're investing in yourself, you're buying yourself time. And
that's a good way to say it, for sure. You're by every dollar you're putting into becoming better, you're buying your, because in the end, like, what are we trying to do with this money and all this success? Like, and I say this like over and over and over again, but ultimately everyone in some shape or form is looking for freedom, right?
Yeah.
And freedom is in perfect alignment with just having more time. And so you're right. It's like every dollar you invest in yourself will get you quicker to freedom, which will therefore save you more time.
Exactly. Yeah. So I definitely believe in investing in yourself. So that was a period in my life where I invested a lot. I was just taking the time to grow, and instead of more like the law of attraction, the mindset, personal development stuff, I was diving deeper into the business. Okay, how do I start an LLC? How do I create contracts? How do I, find prospects? How do I? This was the beginning of the whole me starting a business from scratch. So ended up building a website company, and thankfully I had very creative friends that they helped me with photography, they helped me with video. Excuse me. So I had a team of 3 people total, and and with that I was going out and I was walking into businesses. I was doing it in a sense door to door, but business to business. I was walking in, I was finding roads that I was just going to be there for hours. And I had a microphone. I recorded every interaction with the business owner, and I'd see, like, what am I doing wrong? Where am I stuttering? How can I?
That's interesting and very, wait, so I actually want to ask more about that. So you had a microphone plugged to your phone? Is that what you mean?
Yeah, I had a microphone. I had my phone in my pocket, had it plugged into my phone.
That's genius.
So then I'd go into business.
And you review your calls.
Exactly. So and they weren't calls. I'd actually.
Well, I mean, you know what I mean.
I'd record the interactions, and I was also doing merchant services too. So that if you don't know merchant services, it's like the credit card processing.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Right.
Something. And so that taught me how to, it's called Canvas. It taught me how to canvas these businesses, go inside. And then I realized a lot of people didn't want that. But at the end, I'd approach the owner genuinely, and I say, hey, look, I understand, you already have a friend that's giving you your credit card processing. And look, this is something I do on the side. I'm starting my own business, and I'm helping the local companies around here with their social media presence and also, with advertising to get them out more. Is that something you'd be open to? And people, like, when I mentioned websites, when I mentioned how I was starting my own business about social media marketing, the ones that knew that was the trend, their eyes lit up, and then we'd set up an appointment for that. And I'd be selling these websites, and I'd sell also just like some marketing. I'd attached to the websites. I'd put some marketing tools that would capture everyone's information. And so I was building these things out, and I loved it. This was my first experience of making, like in the thousands of dollars. I was making an extra $1,000, $2,000 on top of my job, because I was still working, and I was making maybe $500 at my job. So my business was outperforming. I didn't quite quit yet. I was just saving. And
let's talk a little bit more on the mechanical side of things. So you're going to these business, right? Like you're just some kid off the street. How do you go from being, again, a kid off the street to having a good sales conversation and actually closing them on the fact, not only getting in this website and such, but that you it sounds like you're straight up telling them, like, I'm starting a new business, which is like surprising. How, because I feel like a lot of listeners might be just starting out. Maybe they're in their first or second year and they're still kind of like the new kids. And so I'd love to see, like, how does a new kid still get sales against people? Again, you're competing against people that have hundreds of employees and have been around for years and so on and so forth. How do you pull that off?
Yeah, so I think it was a mixture of a couple of things. Realizing that I'm talking to a lot of business owners at an early age. I realized how important first impression is. So I would always be suited up. I'd be suited up, the tie, the dress shirt, and the slacks, and walking, like, no matter, regardless of the weather. I was sweating, my butt off sometimes, but I think what people saw, and I got this a couple of times, is when I was speaking to the business owners, is they tell me, you know what, you reminded me a lot of me when I was younger. So let's set something up. So I think because I was at the perfect age where I was like just barely cute and also just like also, barely professional too, versus if I was 20, 21, 22, and I was saying that at my age now, or 22, 23 years old, they'd be a little bit more like, well, this guy's older and he's starting a business. I don't know. It's a little risky. So I'm thinking it was a little bit more of like, I got like they adored that. And then also I knew they wanted to kind of see like how they could not necessarily take advantage. I don't know if that's the right term for it, but they knew, okay, this kid's starting off. Maybe I can have him do more things for me, right? Like maybe I can. And I got that a lot. People would, because of my early age, would try to take advantage of, they'd want me to do more than I offered. They want me to, do certain things that I wasn't even.
So there's two things I'd love to dive into here. One is, the whole thing about you being young and all that. Obviously, that's not something that's relatable to everybody. But I think, though, it's more than just that. So, like, yes, of course, the age and all that. But it's that more importantly, like you said, they saw themselves in you. And to see themselves into someone is another way of saying, I relate to you.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think, and even though it was pretty much unintentional, what you did is by being X age, you became relatable in that way. And so I think the takeaway that others could listen to that aren't 16 years old or 17 is that if you start by relating, right, like you said, dress for success, show up first impressions, and relate, connect fundamentally as a human being, then you can get your foot into the door.
Totally. I was genuine. I think that's what it was too, is I was very genuine. I was super honest about it. And I was coming from a place where they knew my intentions and they knew my heart from the jump.
There you go. That's good.
Yeah.
So now the second thing I want to bring up is you were saying, okay, so they would kind of maybe potentially try to take advantage of you, right? So they'd try to get you to do a little bit of extra things, so on and so forth. Now, I'm assuming probably in the beginning you probably did, and then you probably figured out that you really didn't want to do that. Exactly. So how do you, because I think this is another really big problem. A lot of people have such difficulty with saying no to doing a little bit more, right? Like, I sold them on this is what they're getting. And then now they're asking for more, but I'm not getting more for it. Right. And that's very unjustified. So how do you address that? If let's say, again, let's play a scenario. I've got, and so that it's more relatable to some of the audience too. I'm building a deck or something like that, and they want to add something to the deck or whatever. And that was not in the original quote, which I feel is still similar to what you deal with. How do you deal with that? How do you sort of, properly, comfortably say either no or turn it into an upsell?
Yeah. And that's exactly what I do. Is I would say this, at that time, the way that I realized I could avoid it is I started putting it in agreements, right? So I brought up agreements, and everything that's in the agreement is everything that we talked about. Everything that isn't on the agreement or in the deck, you can say, then it's going to be an extra cost. And so I had to learn how to ask, right? Because the funny thing is I think people are afraid to actually ask for more business, or they're afraid to ask, or they'll allow themselves to do more than what they're paid for when they don't realize. For some people, I remember the first time I asked someone and I mentioned, look, this is going to be a lot more expensive. If you want that, it's going to be extra $1,000. And they didn't flinch. They're like, okay, where do we start? And so just realizing that, one, if it wasn't in the agreement, if we didn't talk about it, then I wouldn't do it, right? So I'd say no, like, no, look, I'm not going to be able to do that, right? This is a business, not charity in a sense, but I would love to help. So if this is something you want to do, then we can, it's an additional whatever the amount is, right? And then from there, they'll tell me yes, or they'll say, you know what, okay, that's fine. Just start with what we're talking about in the agreement, and we'll go from there. So I learned about putting the agreements together. If it isn't in there, if we didn't talk about it, then it's not a part of the service. And if they wanted it, then they could pay for it. So that's what I learned, is not just saying yes to everything, because I was definitely a yes man early on, and I realized it was eating up so much of my time. It was great for my experience, but at the end of the day, when I felt like I was actually worth more time, worth more money, and my value was up, I had to say no. Right? I couldn't do that anymore.
Yeah, no, that's awesome, man. I think that's really, really good for others to hear. Like, you really just got to set clear expectations, right? That's really what it's got to be, and then get it in writing, of course. So that's good. Cool. So, okay. So now anyways, you're doing well right now, right? You're making more money with the business than you are with your job. So what's up?
Yeah. So this is where I found the cap. And then this is where I had to make a big choice, and where it leads to where I'm at now. So at this point, I was making some good money, right? Not incredibly, nothing incredible, but I was making some couple $1,000s. I was fine at that age. Like, I was good. I was killing it in my eyes. But then I found myself working so much, right? I could only sell 3 or 4 websites before I'd find myself stuck at home building websites. And then I felt like, you know what, I'm still working for these people. And so it came down to 2 roads, right? And I realized this. I was aware of it. I could either take it this route, and I know I'm going to have to build a team, right? If I'm going to do this, I don't want to be stuck doing this all the time. And it's also limiting my income capacity if I could only work with 3 or 4 clients at a time. So I could take that route, or I'd have to find another way, a more effective route, to where, I don't have to do fulfillment. I'd have to figure something out. So around this time is when my uncle Tony came down from LA. He worked with this guy internationally. His name was Adam Flores. Adam bought his flight tickets to come and speak at his event. So my uncle was like, hey, look, I'm going to this marketing event, and I need a ride. So a ride. And also, I want you to check this out. I know you're doing some things. I always updated him with even to this day, I update him with everything that I'm doing. And he's one of my, like my counsel if I need anything.
And one of your number one fans, I'm sure.
Yeah. Oh yeah. One of my number one fans. Absolutely. And I'm the same way for him. And so I ended up going to this event, and I absolutely fell in love with the guy that helped him. His name's Adam, and he had, a beautiful wife. He was a Christian man, a team. The culture was awesome. Like, I remember going there. Every person in the team was super awesome. They were really happy, which is rare to find, is a company with employees that are happy. And so I was like, I don't know what it is about this guy, but he's packing out this room with hundreds of people. He's a great speaker. He is an expert at what he does. I got to learn from him, and I'm going to do whatever it takes. So I literally connected with all of his team. I was like, how can I connect with you guys to be part? And it took me months. So think about this. I was doing a couple $1,000s a month. I had the job, and I was connecting with his team, and one of the person that did the hiring and the firing, willing to intern and work absolutely free. I just wanted to get my foot in the door. I just wanted to get inside. I wanted to be a part of the culture. And so I followed up because even though I wasn't selling a product, I was selling myself. And
I was actually going to allude to that for sure. Is that's what you started getting really good at.
Yeah, exactly. I was selling myself, and I still had to do that with the person that does the hiring and the firing to get me an interview at least. And so it took a couple months, but finally got the interview. And Adam, I never knew this, but I always wondered why Adam was in the room, because I could tell that the person doing the interviews, the guy that did the hiring and firing at the time, his name was Jay. And so Jay, wasn't used to Adam being in the room. And so I knew something that was up there. And then even Adam told me, he's like, look, I never participate in any of these interviews. I leave that up to Jay, but I'm curious to, I want to be in the room while he's asking me questions. And I was like, okay. And so he's, asking me all these questions. The interview was about 30, 45 minutes. And at the end, Adam resonated. They all resonated so deeply, right? I truly sold myself. And they brought me on as an intern. Adam was like, you know what, I really love, what you're about. And also what you're doing. I want you to have you aboard on my team, as an intern working for free. We'll see where you fill in. And so I did that. And now realizing what had happened, the reason he was in the room is my uncle put in a good word for me. And he said, look, I know this kid's young, but take him seriously. And so he did. That's why he was in the room, and it ended up landing me the position. And I started off as an intern, and now my role with it's called the Business Club Academy, and also Dream Factory Co. We own a couple. Adam owns a few companies that I do work for. Now I do business development, and now I've started the sales team from scratch with them. So now I'm the sales manager, and now Adam and I are starting our own company. So that one decision led now to where I'm at. I've been working with Adam now for almost 2 years. It's going to be 2 years in about 3 or 4 months, and that's when I really started to experience my life changing. Right, I had a whole other level of leadership, and they say if if your goal is to make $10,000 a month, find someone that's doing 10 times that, because you're gonna get there faster. And so I realized I needed to learn from someone ahead of me, and Adam was the guy who built the team, built the social media marketing agency, built successful $1 million companies, and I was like, this is the guy I got to learn from. And so ever since then, that's what really took me to the next level, and financially, mentally, and just all areas of my life, really.
Cool, man. Love it. Yeah, no, it's a really cool story, and it's really cool to sort of see that grit of being willing to surrender to working for free in the hopes, really not the guarantee whatsoever, that something will align for you to get this greater role and such. So it's really cool, and I want to sort of dig into that as well a little bit. Is how did you keep yourself going through that? Like, again, there was no guarantees at all, right? Like, you could have completely just left there and wasted your time entirely. How do you get yourself to still do these things? And the reason I want to bring this up too, to relate to others, is there's a lot of people that are starting businesses or running businesses, and business is no guarantee. And in theory, nothing in life is a guarantee, but especially in business, or especially in a sales role, you could lose your job any day of the week. So how do you keep yourself going even though there's not that guarantee?
Well, I mean, geez, that's a great question. And I'll start it off with this. My only regret is that I didn't work for someone for free sooner, because even though I knew there's no guarantee of me getting a spot as an actual, even getting a role in the company. All I knew was that I was going to learn from it, right? Like, I was going to learn from someone who's at a much higher level. I spent a lot of time with him. I did whatever I could just to be around him. And now he's, like my brother and best friend. So even though there's no guarantees, I think that's what life is really about. And I noted, I was aware of that at an early age, with everything that I did, from even when I was selling, in network marketing, I always mentioned risk. Like, yeah, there's a risk in everything that you do, but you're not going to reap the rewards if you never even try it. Right. So it's just a matter of, if I never tried, I would still be at a job. I'd probably still be in college working towards a master's, and nothing wrong with that. I know there's people that have graduated and gone to, and actually I really respect the people that do that, because that's a whole nother level of dedication. I feel for me, it's just, my passion found me young. And so, and it grasped me. So, but I think I was just a risk taker, and I realized, and for those that are watching that are younger than 30, like, those are the years to fail. Those are the years to risk, to try, I'm not afraid of sleeping on the floor. I've done it when I was younger because my parents grew up poor, right? So I'm not afraid to sleep in cars, because, again, I've done that. I'm not afraid to be broke and learn while doing it. I'm not afraid to lose it all, right? So just taking massive risk. And then, of course, if you're past 30, then of course it's about being a little bit safer. But at the end of the day, everything is going to have risk, right? Starting a business is risky. Starting a job now is risky, because you can get fired at any moment.
These days, yeah, for sure.
Here anymore. So it's just realizing, how bad do you want it? And I want it with all my life. So knowing that, taking any risk, any investment that it takes, that's what drove me. That's what made me do that.
Cool. So one thing I want to bring up too is you mentioned at one point, and I'm sure you didn't mean it in any kind of a bad way, but you said, if you're under 30, this is your time to fail. And I'd love to actually kind of object to that respectfully in saying that you can be any age and continue, and please keep failing, right? And a great example is JFK, was it? No. The guy who did Kentucky Fried Chicken.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Remember, like, so his story, I don't know the entire thing, but basically he failed his entire life until he was something like 60 years old, until he finally hit it big with that. But his entire life was just failure after failure after failure, and then finally hit it big. And so, yeah, I think that, and again, I know you didn't mean it to not say this, but for sure, it's like, I don't care how old you are, keep failing and keep learning. And then this relates to the second thing I wanted to say about what you were saying about how you made it through, is during those times of working for free and so on and so forth. I feel what's really cool is you were doing it from a space of open-mindedness and learning, and not from a space of like lack or fear of not getting it, or fear of, these kinds of spaces that create a negative energy and mentality. You were doing it from a space of, really, no matter what happens, I'm going to win. Whether it's that I win by getting the role and working with Adam, or I win just by being in this environment or in this network. So I think that's one of the things that you're alluding to, is you came from this whole different kind of space. And a lot of people need to do this as well. Is, sometimes what you're doing, it won't result in the way you want it to, but the space, if you're coming from a space of like abundance and seeking to learn and so on and so forth, it'll still have its value. So it's cool to see that you really acted on that, and it's the reason you made it through. Mm-hmm.
Yes. Yeah, I love that. And I do agree with your first point too. I think really at any age, it's about failing, right? The guy, Walt Disney, when asked, how do you become successful faster? Something along those lines. If you look it up, he says, you want to fail faster. You want to fail twice as much. And so, yeah, really, it's just about learning and experience. So no matter what age you are, I would say, as long as you don't have family and people depending on you, right? You have children and you're risking it all because they need food on the table.
Yeah.
And yeah, so just like, but at any age, really, it's about the experience and taking risks. So absolutely agree.
Cool, man. So something just to finish off our show today, I always ask everybody who's on the show, right? What's an exclusive sales secret that you can share with the audience to guide them on their ultimate closer journey?
That's a great question. So an exclusive secret, you can't tell anyone. One thing that really, it took my sales to a whole nother level is when I learned how to sell the subconscious mind, right? So a lot of people don't know that connection happens subconsciously. Like, I'm sure there's people here that have felt that connection, they've met someone for the first time and then they walk away and they're thinking to themselves like, gosh, I don't know what it is about that guy, but I love him, right? Or that girl, like, I don't know what it is about her, but like, she's awesome. So it happens subconsciously. And one of the things that I learned from my uncle is not that he is a sales guy. He is a psychologist, right? He goes deep in the mind. He understands what it is that make people decide to do anything. And so when you learn how to sell the subconscious mind, when you learn how to close someone before you even ask the closing question, you close someone really in the first 5 minutes. So how do you do that? How do you close someone in the first 5-10 minutes? So the way you develop a connection with someone is through a couple means, right? The way that it's done subconsciously is you connect with someone when you can tell they have self-confidence and they have that internal conviction. There's conviction there. When you speak, they have no doubt. When you speak, they have full confidence. When you speak, they have your attention, right? And then the self-belief, right? They believe so deeply in what they're doing, without a doubt. They believe so deeply in their product. They believe so deeply in their service. And not only that, but they believe deeply in themselves. So when you speak to anyone and right off the bat, the first 5 minutes are the most important minutes, right? On selling them subconsciously, on getting them to know, like, and trust you before they even know that they know, like, and trust you, right? So I'd say that, and we could definitely go deeper. Maybe even you and I, we can do some webinar together on how to do that. That'd be awesome.
Yeah,
and then,
for sure. That'd be a lot of fun.
Yeah, and then I want to throw in one last thing, right? So learn how to sell it to the subconscious mind. Stop trying to sell people
logically, analytically.
That's not how it happens. And then the second thing is, more than a sales guy, right? More than trying to be a saleswoman or a salesman, focus on being the best marketer of yourself, right? Focus on being the marketer, not the salesperson. Because when you're focused on being the marketer and you're getting in front of more people and you're reaching a new audience and you're reaching more eyeballs, naturally more sales are going to happen, because you're in sales. The person who wins is the one who has the most conversations, right? So you've got to have the most conversations in anything that you do. And the way you're going to get to that is by being a marketer. You really have to think about, okay, you have to be strategic about how can I reach the most of my target audience in the least amount of time with the least amount of effort, and do that repeatedly. Have a system that will allow you to reach hundreds and thousands of people, so that sales will then will be the easiest part, right? Because it's just conversation and you're just having a lot more of them. So be a marketer, right? Don't just be a salesperson. Don't just wait for the phone to ring, but learn how to market yourself and focus on that for this next year, for 2019. Make it the year where you reach the most amount of people, so that then you can naturally, as a byproduct, sell more. And so those would be the two secrets.
Cool, man.
I'd share.
Powerful stuff. Yeah. And like, I know you say it often, I'm kind of surprised you didn't just say it now. You got to do fanatical prospecting, right?
Fanatical prospecting. There we go.
Yeah. Cool. Well, Carlos, if someone wants to find you, get to know you, or get to know what you're working on and so on and so forth, what's sort of the best places they can go to find you?
Yeah. So you could find me, if you want to reach me, I think the best way to reach me is on Instagram. It's Carlos H. Martinez. And
I'll make sure to put a link in the description and such.
Yeah, and then my Facebook, you could go there. Developing a brand soon, so I have my website, domains, and all that, but you can't quite reach me there yet. You got to wait for that. But the best way is just on Instagram and DM me there.
Yeah, another good place, guys, is obviously he's in the Ultimate Closer group, and so this will be posted there as well. So feel free to ask any questions in the comments. He'll be tagged in it, so on and so forth. So he'll dive in on that as well. And so awesome. Yeah. So to recap our episode on this episode of the Ultimate Closer Show, we had the privilege to dig into some sales theories, philosophies, and some actionable strategies, tips, and techniques to make sure you're closing more deals here with Carlos. Carlos, I want to get it right here. It's Carlos Hernandez Martinez. Carlos
Martinez for sure. If you just want to
yeah, there you go. Make it easy. But more specifically, we talked about things such as physiology and state, right? Getting into the right state to do the right thing. Learn from books by writing in your own words the most important parts. I love that tip. That was very interesting. Investing in yourself. Guys, please, you need to invest in your most powerful asset, which is both yourself, your body, your mind, and your soul. We talked about first impressions and dressing for success, and how that got some 16, 17-year-old to be able to sell marketing to businesses to this kid, and it's super important because he showed up as more than just that kid. And so also protecting yourself from doing things for free. Write those expectations down, put them in writing, get them signed, so that you're not stuck wasting your time with things that are just not worth your time. And so obviously there's so many other tidbits, but that's what we're looking at. So guys, as usual, sales is an epic journey, and it's infinitely more difficult without a guide to show you the potholes to avoid and the paths to excellence. So if you're on your sales journey and realize that you do not want to do it alone, then let me be your guide. You know where to find me. And once again, Carlos, thank you so much for being on the show. I wish everybody an ultimate closer day.
Thank you, Oliver, for having me, and for everyone watching. Go out there, kill it, reach out to Oliver. He's the man. And thank you again, man. I loved it. Love being here.